What the fuck is up with this weird foaming dog?
G'day and welcome to another episode of Let's Rewatch, the show where we watch movies we loved in our youth and see if they're actually any good. I'm Nick.
I'm Bret.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Ash.
Did we all just pause to think if we could do an Australian accent and we all chickened out?
No.
We were all driving full speed towards it and we all veered off at the last minute.
Hey, you know what's not a good idea?
What's not a good idea? Illustrate it with audio.
No.
No? So we're going to be watching Crocodile Dundee from 1986.
Crocodile
Because-
Dundee.
This is from 86?
Yeah, what did you
Yep.
think?
I thought for sure it was like an early 90s movie.
Well, they made 3 of them.
Well-
You might be thinking of the third one.
Maybe. I thought it would be like 92, 93. This is going to feel real dated.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Potentially.
Dude, this is like when was Romancing the Stone? Like 88 or something, right?
You can make
like
me look stuff up.
I think it's going to feel like Romancing the Stone quality, you know, for sure. Because it is definitely around that time period.
Holy
But-
shit, Romancing the Stone was 84. You're totally right. It's going to feel exactly like Romancing the Stone.
I mean, it's almost like it's the same movie. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, except they replaced the hot dude with a weird grungy guy.
I'm going to predict that this is going to feel a lot like, but better than Romancing the Stone.
Oh, plot twist.
Is this the movie where he has a knife?
Yes.
You think this is worse?
I guess. I don't know. Is it going to be kind of like that scene in Elf where he's running around New York, except replace Elf with a Australian man with a knife?
What? No. Well, sort of, I guess. Yeah.
Right? Like,
Okay,
doesn't
I've
he
come
go
full
to New
circle
York?
on that. Yeah, I think you're actually really right.
That's
Oh
what
boy.
I remember of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's this movie.
All right, I'm ready.
Well, just take out the elf and put in a New York reporter, and yeah, that's this movie.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, Ash, why don't you tell us about how this movie is suddenly on the consciousness of the internet?
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, happy Super Bowl Sunday because
Because you're
That's
totally listening to
why.
this in
Yeah.
the past.
yes. Yeah, we're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday because, well, I guess because we were dumb and we scheduled it. None of us are football people, so we scheduled this on Super Bowl Sunday. But there's
Bret
been
disagrees. He is a half-hearted football person.
All right. Well, good for you and the sports ball. But basically, there's been these fake trailers going around with Danny McBride and Chris Hemsworth. And they're fake trailers for another Crocodile Dundee movie. And
Which, for a solid week, people were talking about this on the internet, not knowing if they were fake or not,
yeah.
and wondering how they managed to shoot this movie without anybody knowing.
Yeah, totally. And apparently what it is it's just a bunch of Super Bowl advertisements for people to come visit Australia. Like Australia made this fake. these
What?
fake,
That makes
like,
it so much
trailers.
cooler.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
apparently-
actually pretty awesome.
After the first Crocodile Dundee movie, the one we're going to watch, the Australia Tourism Board did a lot of promotion and used Paul Hogan and did a bunch of commercials based on that character. And it really boosted tourism. So I kind of wish they'd leaned into it and actually made the movie that we've seen the fake trailers for.
I know, Danny McBride's fucking Crocodile Dundee would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I
And-
found some information about that apparently back in 2014, these Australian comedians, Will Anderson and Charlie Clausen, I know I'm totally butchering that,
Oh.
but they actually wrote a sequel and they wanted Chris Hemsworth in the movie as the son of Crocodile Dundee. So it's kind of interesting. Like, it sounds like this idea has been floating around for a while, and I wouldn't be surprised that if the Super Bowl ads like generate enough interest, if they potentially do it, because it looks like a funny, like fun version. It doesn't necessarily to me look like a Crocodile Dundee movie, but it looks like a fun, like a fun spin on it that I would totally be down
I don't
for.
know. I really like this spin of it. Chris Hemsworth not being the son, but it being Danny McBride. Like that.
No, I like that too. I'm just saying Danny McBride's brand of humor is not the Crocodile Dundee brand of humor, but I'm still totally down for it, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, Crocodile Dundee doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's just like, I'm fucking Crocodile Dundee, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Pretty good impression. So I'm actually curious which trailer you saw, or Sam and Bret, have you seen this trailer in question?
One of them.
Yeah, we've seen a trailer.
I think I've seen all of them.
When I first did a search, I just found, or maybe it's when Ash posted on Facebook, it was just like Danny McBride gets off the bus and meets Chris Hemsworth, and that's it. But there's another longer trailer where we see lots of actors.
Oh, really? I don't
Did
know
you
if
guys
I've
see
seen
that?
that one.
That's the one that we saw, I thought.
The one we saw, it was like that big, mountaintop shot of Danny McBride, slow reveal.
I've seen that one, and then I've seen the water buffalo scene where they like recreated the water buffalo scene.
Well, so there's a much longer trailer, and I've got the IMDb page open, and the cast in this trailer of this theoretic movie is brilliant.
Oh yeah.
So Russell Crowe looks to be like a newspaper owner billionaire who's probably the bad guy.
Oh my God, yes.
Isla Fisher as Dr. Clark. Chris Hemsworth as Wally Jr., which would be the son of Crocodile Dundee's best friend in this movie. Liam Hemsworth in another role. Hugh Jackman as the Prime Minister.
Oh, nice.
And Margot Robbie as Lil Donk.
What the fuck?
Which I think was like
these people Australian.
Yeah. That's the brilliant part.
Wow.
There's also a listing here for Luke Bracey as the cricket legend, and I can only assume that he's a cricket player in Australia. So
That's
with
pretty
that
great.
cast, I really want to see that movie.
I
Totally.
bet you they do it. Like, I think if it drums up enough interest, why not,
I kind of hope so, because that's like, what else does Australia have?
Some of the fucking coolest animals in the world. Shut your mouth.
Well, you know what else Australia has? If you have Netflix, you should check out Glitch.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Glitch is very good.
What is that?
So it's this tiny little Australian town, and one day, like 6 people just climb up out of their graves. They're just not dead anymore. They don't know why.
Some of them aren't even like freshly dead. They're like been dead for like 100 years.
Yeah, I think it's like 200. Like they span quite a range.
Yeah.
And they don't remember who they are or how they died at first, and they slowly get their memories back.
It's really good. There's another show that's like exactly like it, but I think it's either an American or British show that I haven't seen, but people tell me that version sucks, but Glitch is really good. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Did you see the second season yet?
I've started watching it. We haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and they've like really short seasons, really good stuff, and I don't know if there's going to be a third season or not. But first
spoilers.
Two are on Netflix. What? That I don't know if they're going to get another season?
Oh, I thought you were like, because they wrap it up kind of thing.
Oh.
Well, spoilers.
Kind of just got the comments on that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Well, they totally not going to finish the So yeah, for Crocodile Dundee, there's not a ton to talk about here. So our main actor, Paul Hogan, and the director, Peter Feynman, came from The Paul Hogan Show, which was a comedy show in Australia in the late 70s.
I didn't know
early
that.
80s. And it kind of feels like this is the movie for The Paul Hogan Show. in the way that Keanu was the Key and Peele movie.
So is this like, is Dundee a character he would play on the Paul Hogan show, or?
No, I've never seen it. I mean, it was late 70s in Australia, but the little bit I've seen on the internet suggests it's a variety show.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't think that character was in that show, but I really don't know. But I can tell you that Peter Feynman, who is a director on the Paul Hogan show, is the director here. Paul Hogan wrote the screenplay for this film, and of course is our big star. And it's his first film.
Wow, I didn't know he wrote it. That's so awesome.
Yeah. There's a couple other screenwriters credited, but it kind of feels like a Sylvester Stallone situation where it's just he wrote the movie that made him a star.
Wow. Did he write the other ones?
Yeah, I believe he did. And he also wrote Almost an Angel, which is one of the other big films that he did. And I'm sorry, he also wrote Lightning Jack. So in fact, if you look at Paul Hogan on IMDb, he's got a fairly short list, and they're all pretty well-known things. And it looks like Flipper is the one that he didn't write.
He was in Flipper?
Yeah, he was the uncle. Who was the nephew, the kid in Flipper?
No idea.
I have no idea.
The theme song for Flipper. Have you guys heard that song?
What
Flipper,
song?
Flipper, faster than lightning?
It's like a confused writer, just like, Flipper, Flipper, Flipper.
It's Dolphin. So the kid in that movie, in Flipper, was Elijah Wood.
Holy fuck, what?
Really?
Yeah. That would have been, 1996? Yeah.
No
The only thing I
shit.
know about Flipper is that dolphin tried to kill itself.
What? In real
what?
life?
Yeah, in real life. It's like super fucked up. Like
Aw.
the conditions that dolphin lived in was not good.
How does a dolphin kill itself?
It
they
goes out of
drown?
the water.
Actually, no,
what?
they drown. They try to drown themselves so they don't come back up for air.
Interesting.
That's sad.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, moving
You
on.
just brought this
Ash.
shit way down.
Sorry.
It's a good band name, though, Dolphin Suicide.
Dolphin Suicide is the best band name. I love it.
Wow.
No, it's sad. They're majestic creatures.
If you start a band, dear listener, called Dolphin Suicide, please send us your music.
And bum us all out.
Send Ash and Bret your music. Leave me and Nick out of this.
So our other star in this movie is Linda Kozlovsky, who we haven't seen in really anything other than the Crocodile Dundee movies and also Almost an Angel with Paul Hogan. In fact, Linda Kozlovsky and Paul Hogan were married in 1990,
I was just going to say, it sounds like she's his wife.
but wasn't when they did the first two Crocodile Dundee movies. So I don't know. It seems like he probably didn't bring his girlfriend into the situation, but maybe they met that way.
Or she was like, I'm not going to marry you until you stop doing these fucking movies. And he's like, all right, one more.
Oh my God, there's an IMDb for the commercials, P.S. Oh, I guess that's how you found the cast, huh?
Yeah.
Director Seth Rogen? What? Sorry.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
That's
I would
so
be so on
great.
board with that.
Yeah. Anyway.
God, hook up this movie. Make this movie happen. Wait, I see director Steve Rogers.
Captain America?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I did read it too fast.
Well, you just came up with a brilliant idea there.
But yeah, Seth Rogen would be
Yeah, somebody
amazing.
call Seth Rogen.
Can we do that, please?
Oh, that's right. I think this guy, Steve Rogers, is a commercial director.
So
Yeah, because they don't put commercials in IMDb.
except for this one.
Well, yeah. Except for commercials that people really want to be a movie.
Anyway.
And that's about it. That's our cast, man. That's, and maybe there's a lot of people that you would know from Australian sketch comedy of the late 70s, but there's not a lot of people that we recognize here. Although there is I saw one recognizable actor fairly deep down in the IMDb list, and I do not remember him here. So let's just have a jolly time when he pops up.
Okay.
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 Yeah, because Australian sketch comedy from the 70s is like such a far out thing from anything I know about.
I'm just imagining grown men popping out of kangaroo pouches.
What the
Oh,
fuck?
gross.
So, what do you guys expect from Crocodile Dundee? There's not a lot of
Amazingness.
setup here. There's like not a lot to like base this on except hazy memories.
What?
Yeah,
are you,
super
what's-
hazy memories.
You guys,
Like,
I'm sorry. No, stop
Okay,
right now.
go ahead,
Has
Ash.
a knife.
This
You
I
got
love
something to
this
say?
fucking film. So
Okay.
shut up. I love this movie. And I remember a lot about it, I think. I mean, there's a lot that I don't remember, but there's like iconic stuff that I definitely remember. I remember the end very clearly. And this was one of the movies that I remember watching over and over again as a kid. I think because I have some sort of weird fascination with Australia and I really want to go to Australia. And it's probably from this movie that I really want to go to Australia. But the whole idea of like going to Australia and doing a walkabout in the bush, like, is definitely on the bucket list for me because of this film.
I just imagine young Ash sitting at home with the like rewinding the videotape and just seeing like, that's a knife. That's a knife.
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
Wow. Well, I will also say that I remember really, really liking this movie. And I do remember there was a piece of time when it would play nonstop on Comedy Central or something similar.
Yeah, I think it was Comedy Central.
Yeah. But I think it's a great movie. I think it's, you know, some great comedy, but I think there's also some, I mean, I guess the word is drama, but there's some really, you know, I don't know, calm human nature, you know, elements to it.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I'd say it's
spiritual,
as much,
relaxing stuff.
Yeah, I'd say it's as much of a comedy as Romancing the Stone is a comedy, where it's like, I'd say first and foremost, it's an action movie that happens to be funny. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Just like Romancing the Stone, it's like first and foremost, I feel like Romancing the Stone's an action movie that just happens to also be kind of funny.
I think this is more comedy, but this is going to be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, because that's kind of like we had that conversation about the new Thor movie, where it's like that one's definitely like feels like to me more comedy than action movie.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember more. I remember more action scenes than I do comedy bits. Like the end of this movie is a pretty big action sequence, like fight sequences. I mean,
Well, maybe what's happening here is that it's just an incredibly well-rounded movie. You know, something
Yeah,
I forgot to
totally.
mention is Paul Hogan was nominated for an Academy Award for this screenplay.
wow,
What?
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
didn't
really
win,
fucking
but a
good.
nomination. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
So I think there's more depth here than just goofy comedy.
And it's more situational comedy than it is, which is kind of why I was saying I don't think it's Danny McBride's brand of humor. I feel like it's Jesus birds. God. Anyway, I feel like it's more, you know, about sort of like you said, Sam, like the humor an elf comes from. You put an elf in the middle of New York City. Like, I feel like the humor here comes more from this guy being out of his element.
Yeah. That's what I remember. You know, like he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go eat a pizza," and like pulls out a giant knife and it's like, "What? You can't do that." Like
I do not
Is that
remember that
the
part.
only thing he does in this movie?
just pull out knives. That's
Like
all
when
I
he goes
remember.
grocery shopping and he pulls out a giant knife.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
the giant knife thing is one scene.
Yeah.
And it's like
And it lives forever.
he's some dude is trying to rob him by knife point. And he's like, "That's not a knife. This is a knife." And he pulls out a big knife and then the dude runs away. I'm pretty sure that's
So
the
I-
whole knife gag.
I really
pretty
hope you
good
did
knife
not
gag.
just reenact the only good thing about this movie.
No, I mean, you were
And
just
that's it.
making,
Don't bother to watch.
you were just making a good case for it being a well-rounded movie. Are you backing down on that so quickly?
Well, it's like
We don't
the,
know.
if this first half of the podcast is like a trailer, you just turned it into the worst type of trailer.
Wow.
That was like the Shatner reading of the line. Like,
So Brett and Sam, have you seen this thing?
Not since I was a kid. I watched it quite a bit with my family, and I remember almost nothing. Like, I remember
Clearly.
little snippets. Yeah. Like, he's in New York. There's taxi cabs and a knife, and he wears a hat.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with my initial guess of like the elf thing of like outsider in New York. Things are new and different, and he doesn't understand.
Yeah, I
plot-
will say the interesting thing is I was talking to Mitch about this movie on our Facebook group, and I've forgotten about pretty much all of the New York stuff. That's the part of the movie that I don't really remember, except for the knife scene. And I
Thought the whole thing is in New York.
I don't know.
Then let me
could
ask
be
you
right.
this.
But
Is
I think
Crocodile Dundee 2 when they go to New York?
no, it is.
No,
this
there
movie.
is New York in this movie?
Yeah,
that's
and
Jurassic Park too.
Wow. No, that's Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if I'm remembering the second movie, but I remember a lot happening in Australia. So it's interesting. I'm not sure
Yeah,
which, but
The
I will
knife
say-
scene is definitely in the first movie.
yeah, and I will say it definitely does takes place in New York because I'm looking at the movie poster and it's him
Okay.
like holding back these New York style buildings.
Okay.
Pretty wacky, but
Well, he's peeking his head out of the bush.
yeah, into New York. He's peeking his head out of New York's bush.
All right. So, Brad, what do you expect from this movie?
I think I pretty much had the Comedy Central experience with this one, and you know it's weird. I have a hard time thinking back, like what kind of content held young Bret's interest. This wasn't one of those things, because I definitely have seen all of the movie, but never all at once.
The best way to see a movie.
We've also established that childhood Brett is kind of a stupid ass.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I would see like a segment of this, and then when the commercials came on, I would change the channel and not go back. So
you haven't exactly seen this movie. You've seen the unassembled jigsaw puzzle version of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have like some really vague memories, and nothing really stands out except for a couple of the Australia moments and the knife thing.
Okay, so you do remember Australia moments too.
There's
Yeah.
some like weird outbacky stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that there's some of that.
So anyway,
In fact,
I don't really know
I'm
what
thinking
to
of
expect.
one specific great gag in Australia, and I don't know if it's the first movie or the second one.
Yeah, now I'm starting to worry that the one that I really like is the second one.
Oh no.
No, I
Like
think
the Mighty Ducks all
I think
over
this movie, if I'm remembering correctly, it's a little long-ish, and it's like firmly half in each.
Okay, that's
You
what
know,
I
half
thought.
in Australia, half in New York. Yeah.
Are we gonna find out what a Dundee is?
What's his name?
His last name is Dundee.
Yeah.
His first name is Crocodile.
Well, no.
No, it's Mick.
But his nickname is Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, I always assumed it was like an Australian Mountie.
Oh.
You mean that he rode on Crocodile back?
Oh my God. Yes, this movie would be so much better. Let's write
Wow.
Seth Rogen and number 1, tell him to direct the new movie. And then number 2, tell him that he needs to ride a crocodile.
Wow. So I think this makes this movie a little different from at least movies we've watched recently where we seem to have much clearer memory. This one
Yeah.
is kind of a little bit more of an X factor,
I guess so.
you know? Yeah. But I think it's really popular and really well liked. So I think there's a lot of potential here.
I wonder how many
Yeah,
people.
everyone knows this movie.
Does everyone know this movie? Sounds like that's what you were saying.
Yeah, or knows of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the knife gag. Everybody knows this movie exists. They've heard of it. But I don't know.
If
I don't think
everyone
it's
knows
one that
the knife gag, I guess I didn't ruin it for them then.
There's one listener that's just like, God damn it.
But I don't think it's a sort of movie that people have been going back and watching constantly in the past 20 years,
Yeah,
No,
I think you're right.
30 years.
It's not a movie with layers.
Like an
I think it
onion.
might be, though. I think it's just not something people have been watching. And maybe they should. Maybe now's the time.
Yeah.
About to find out.
All right, so now is the time. This is not on Netflix, I believe, but it's on iTunes and Google Rental. So we're going to pause recording. We're going to watch Crocodile Dundee, and we'll see if it's actually any good.
I come from the land down under.
Oh, that's good.
I was gonna do this.
That's all I know.
I was going to do the NFL Super Bowl. Da, 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 da.
We'll
Are
just
you
do
ready
all
for
of them.
some crocodiles?
Wow.
So,
Can I just say wow?
You
about
can say
Crocodile
that.
Dundee. So why don't we go ahead and talk about the one and only thing that's on everybody's mind right now, having watched this movie?
Grab him by the pussy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that not the one thing that is disturbing as shit from this movie?
Oh my god!
And
can I just
one of
say
many.
that I have never been so wrong about a movie? Like, oh my god!
They did it
Okay.
not
Oh
my
once,
God.
but fucking twice. Twice.
Yes,
I'm so happy.
he grabbed
that
him by the pussy dick.
I'm so happy you didn't like it.
And there's a
Were
lot
you
of
really
stuff.
worried?
I was like, I'm gonna come back into this and be like, I hated it, and then Ash is gonna be sad. But no.
No, I have
Yeah.
never been so wrong about a movie, guys. I am so shocked and horrified that I posted on Facebook that I remember loving this movie. Horrified.
Times have changed.
Horrified.
Yeah.
I
lot.
like had a note early on in this movie when they were still in Australia, and he was like making comments about like, oh, the bush is no place for a Sheila. And I
Yeah.
was like, this movie does not hold up to the Me Too movement. And then he grabbed someone by the fucking pussy and literally pulled a Trump. And I was like, horrified.
Yeah. This
Horrified.
movie is totally okay with sexual assault. Like, he kisses
Yes.
the guy, and then everyone's like, oh, he kissed you, and you didn't like it. Isn't that funny? And then that guy in the subway tries to, like, assault her, and then she knees him in the
Yes.
crotch. And, like,
Yeah, what a weird insert. Like,
But both ways. It goes both ways because, like, she also walks in on him naked in the bathroom. Also inappropriate. Like, I'm going to put
Right.
this on
What
the table.
is the nature of their relationship at that point?
Yeah. And I'm just going to put this on the table, but I think this is the most wildly inappropriate movie we have ever watched on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
it's- I
Adjusted
agree,
for
yeah.
time.
It's because it makes these things look okay. Like,
Yeah.
it laughs at sexual assault, and it's like,
Totally.
isn't it funny? And I was like, wow, I did not want to live in the 80s where not only is this so okay, but it's okay enough to put in a movie and laugh about it and say that this movie is okay for kids and families.
And like, what is going on? Like you just said, Nick, like, what is their relationship? This movie seems to be okay with a woman who goes and cheats on her, boyfriend. And then she comes back and she's like, it ain't no thing. I'm going to make out with my boyfriend in front of the guy I cheated on, with him on.
Right.
Like that was nothing. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening in this movie?
But even the way you say it, that, like, I don't think, and I could be wrong because the movie wasn't clear about it, I don't think they, like, had sex in Australia. It was a kiss. But still, it leaves you wondering, like, what the hell is going on between these
Yeah.
people?
I think
Absolutely.
it was very confused because all we saw was a kiss, and the timeline stated that there was only time for a kiss. And then he got back to the guy driving the truck, and they had like this whole exchange of like, did you hit that? And he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, would have, except you fucking showed up.
But their
But
conversation made
that
it
all
sound
that
like
kind
he
of
did.
plugs into the characteristic that I did really like about him in the beginning of the movie, that he's kind of showboating for people. Like, he's got this
Absolutely.
image of the wild Outback guy. But like
I'm glad
he looks
you-
at the other guy's watch and then he knows it's 2:20, so he looks at the sun and pretends. Or he was
Yes.
shaving with a disposable razor, then pretended he was shaving with a knife. That was really cute. And I feel like he was kind of doing the same thing when Wally asked him whether, or did the little hand symbols, did you hook up with her? I think he was just showboating there in that cute way he was doing.
All right.
I'm glad you brought that up because I do think one of the greatest parts about this movie is his character entrance, because that's a pretty great character entrance where he comes in and he's wrestling with a stuffed alligator or crocodile. Excuse me. Sorry.
Two different animals, Ash, on like two different continents. God.
But it like totally sums up, you know, his character. Like you said, he's just a showboater. He's fake. He's not really this like crazy bushman that he 100% puts on, you know?
Except he kind of is.
Yeah,
he still
he kind of
brings
is.
it, you know? But he's still putting on a show for what he considers tourists, you know?
He did pull out a gun and fire at some hunters that were doing nothing wrong.
They were not doing nothing wrong.
They were not doing anything
They were
illegal.
pulling donuts out of city limits, shooting kangaroos, which he said wasn't illegal. Ain't nothing wrong with what they were doing.
Wow,
Yeah.
we know where Bret lies.
Fuck
on
kangaroos.
animal abuse. Fuck kangaroos. Jeez.
You know, it's about time
God.
somebody said it.
Those rat bastards. Fuck them.
But like, are you guys really going to take the side of the kangaroos in the Crocodile Dundee shooting at humans debate?
Yeah, he shouldn't be shooting at people. He shot
He's
that guy.
defending the kangaroos. He's defending nature, which is
But no, he's
what
not.
I want that character to do.
He's
He wasn't
not
even
a
though.
defender of
The
nature.
chick was just like, "Hey, kangaroos!"
Yeah,
He's like,
she
"I'm gonna
pushed
fuck
him into
about
it.
kangaroos."
He really was out there to be poaching crocodiles.
I guess so.
That-
like
that is
with
left
the
unclear.
shotgun shells or
He was
whatever
all
the rifle shells in
excited.
the boat.
Yeah, he saw her reach down in the water. He knew there was a crocodile there. Did he stop her before?
Well, he tried.
No.
He hit his head and knocked himself out for a minute.
Oh, I did. I
I
thought
thought he hit his head because he saw her butt.
that's what I thought. That's how I read it. And then he was all happy to stab and kill that crocodile. He liked it. He liked killing things.
He's a psychopath.
He killed the lizard and cooked it just for a fucking joke. That's not okay.
I mean, he's really not a great person. If we
No.
like take this film play by play, like we needed that moment of him killing a crocodile because of him like saving her, because there's really like not a lot else to like about his character. He's
Well,
kind of a
Luna
dick.
was repeatedly making the point that like there's really it was too quick for there to be a relationship, a connection between them. And I was pointing out, well, he killed the crocodile, which I'm leaning on movie logic here. I'm not saying necessarily true logic, but movie logic is I buy that relationship.
Oh yeah,
Because he
as a
saved her
woman,
from
any
certain
guy
death.
that saves me, I just instantly want to fuck him. You know.
Well, I especially
Like-
buy it when that guy is the guy who wrote the movie.
Yeah.
Then that
Yeah, this
logic
is-
absolutely works.
Yeah.
This is very clearly written by somebody who doesn't really quite understand story structure. You know, like this the narrative, like there's really no bad guy in this movie. There's no
it's the chick.
what?
It's the chick. She's the bad guy.
Okay. It's Dunk.
like at the end of the film they have to like have this whole sequence.
Yeah,
with
there's no
this
conflict.
pimp. Yeah, there's no conflict in this movie.
Yeah.
Really. Like the most conflict there is this fiance that he's like gotta, you know, get out of the way, I guess. I don't know. But
Yeah, the pimp wasn't really even a bad guy. Like, he didn't
He's
come up and
defending
hit.
his
Just doing
property.
his job.
Yeah, he didn't like hit the girls or anything, and they didn't seem afraid of him. He's just like, hey,
Yeah,
like,
he's
you
just-
guys on a break? And like, Crocodile Dundee punched him.
Yeah, you
They
know.
were at work.
You got time to lean, you got time to clean. Come on.
It's their office.
We've really
He's
come
just-
full circle from being
Yeah.
upset about a man who grabs someone by the pussy dick to not being okay with a pimp.
Yeah, he's
It's
just forcing
really
them
gone-
to use their bodies to make him money.
We don't know what
Yeah.
their
Who needs
situation
bodily
was.
autonomy.
We don't know what their situation was. Don't shame sex workers.
So, Ash, for what you're saying about this movie not following any sort of story structure, this is a tough argument to make because I don't know if it's intentional. But if it were intentional, this is a movie that could break story structure because it's about a guy who just wanders around and doesn't follow rules and just goes on walkabout with nobody's structure.
Mr. Magoo.
I'm not saying it was intentional, but if it were intentional, this is the movie to do it, and then it would work.
I guess so, but I don't really think that's what the movie's about. I think it's trying to be a romantic comedy between these two people, and there are still rules that you need to follow for a romantic comedy.
And
First, it has to be funny.
Number one.
I agree. I think if they were doing it intentionally, he would have had some sort of character change, which would have made up for the lack of a villain and the lack of a real conflict, because the conflict is internal, but it's not.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that, there was so much setup with the showboating. I was kind of hoping that was going to be his character change, that he was going to, she was going to find out that he's just showboating and like he actually was out there shooting crocodiles. And then, he kind of has this change of heart and becomes the actual real cool Bushman that I remember apparently from Crocodile Dundee 2, because
Maybe.
everything I remembered besides the knife gag was from the other movie.
Yeah, tell us about this big action sequence
Yeah.
that ended that you were excited
Him
about.
walking on all their heads, because that was pretty painful.
No. And I also must be remembering the end of the third movie, but that one is not the one that's good. But the second movie, I remember the second movie is like much more him being an action star hero in the bush. And there's like, I can't remember the details, but there is like an actual bad guy that they're trying to stop. And I remember he teams up with the Aborigine people several times throughout the movie. And I remember there's this big sequence at the end, big fight sequence where I can't remember if they're driving or what, but he's like fighting the bad guy. And I think they're driving and they go over a cliff and everybody, his friend Wally and the female lead, same woman, all think that he died. And so they're all like sad. And then it turns out he's like grabbed onto the side of the cliff and he comes up, and it's a gag that I feel like you've seen over and over again, but he climbs up the cliff and they're all staring down the cliff, like all sad. And he climbs up and stands next to them and stares down the cliff.
Are you
And then they're
seriously
like, "Oh my
describing
God."
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade right now?
Is that what I swear to you that happens in this movie too. Like,
Okay, we
they
got to
think
watch
he
that because
falls
you
off.
absolutely just described Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when the tank goes
I feel
over.
like it's a
and-
gag. I hear you. I do hear you. I do hear it now that I'm saying it. Maybe he doesn't do the look over part, but they definitely
Okay.
look down and they see, like, they think
Yeah.
he's dead. Hold on. I have to Google this now.
That's ridiculous.
What's ridiculous is that they made it to 3 of these movies.
Yeah, did they just get better or?
Because they saw this and were like, this is fucking gold. We need to make more.
But there was
I
this time
remember-
of like slower paced, less exciting movies. I don't think Rocky and Jaws are super exciting by today's standards,
I saw Jaws not too long ago. I still like Jaws.
Still haven't
Yeah?
seen it.
Wait, so when did that Indiana Jones movie come out?
Last
I
Crusade?
want to say 92.
Wow, because Crocodile Dundee was 1988, and I'm finding the scene right now. I'm just trying to.
Indiana Jones and Last Crusade was 89.
89, yeah.
What?
So you're saying
Okay,
that
hold on.
Spielberg stole a scene from Crocodile Dundee 2?
I don't know.
Oh man.
That would be pretty epic.
I'm
Now,
trying to get
of
it
course,
to load.
it is old hat to have a scene where you think somebody's dead and they're not. Now,
Yeah, but this is
if
specifically
somebody falls over a cliff, yeah, then it's closer. But you were giving a lot of details that were very specifically Last Crusade.
I know.
So now
I
I'm
mean,
curious how much overlap there is.
So I found the scene, and it is very similar. It is not exactly, but basically Crocodile Dundee gets shot and falls off a cliff. He falls down the cliff, and her and Wally come up, and they're like looking down, and they're just like, oh my God, he's dead. I can't believe he's dead. And then the Aborigine guy is like, what are you guys doing? Like looking down here. And he says like, you know, they're like, oh, he's dead. And he's like, no, he's not. He's right over there. And he points, and then fucking Paul Hogan walks out of nowhere, just totally fine. And then they're like, oh, and they embrace, and that's the end of the movie. So it's not.
So who did
he
they
doesn't
kill?
look
Freeze frame.
freeze frame, yeah. So it's not exactly like Last Crusade, but it's pretty similar. It's like the same sort of gag.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I was watching this movie, and from the beginning of the movie, I thought to myself, there's no way a newspaper is paying for this story.
Right? Absolutely.
And they,
Well, maybe in 86.
they flew her to Australia and paid for this thing, and then paid for the guy to come back and stay in the nicest hotel ever. And then, you know, they solved it by showing that her dad was the owner of the newspaper. And then suddenly it all makes sense because she's not a real reporter, and she's just doing whatever she wants with her dad's money, going on a fucking sex quest to Australia. Like,
Sex quest.
And let's talk about how that just exacerbates the creepiness of this movie. She's a reporter working for her dad who owns a newspaper. Her boyfriend is the editor.
Yeah.
Who proposes for her, does not wait for an answer.
I know, he just
You know-
puts the ring on her fucking finger before she says
Yeah.
anything. What the fuck?
Like,
So,
okay, I understand
found-
that Crocodile Dundee is confused about these people. I'm fucking confused about these people.
Yeah. Also, he tried
None
to
of this
propose
works.
to her at work in the office before that, and then her dad interrupted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
weird.
Well,
Anyway.
let's talk about that Aborigine dude who is my favorite character.
Oh yeah,
I love
one
the
that's-
idea
Like,
of this Aborigine guy who hates the bush. I love
yeah.
it.
It felt like a Taika Waititi character.
Yes.
You know, he's only there because his dad wants him to be there. He's got the Rolex. I remember that from being a kid, the gag of like, oh, you can't take my picture. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it's got the lids cap on. Yeah.
See,
I
the
love
second
that guy.
movie has a lot more of that guy in it, and he's the one at the end who's like, no, you know, Mick's not dead, he's right over there. He's in, and so it feels like this movie, for the second one, they like took things from this movie and just turned it up to 11 as far as like, you know, amplifying these characters and like, okay, what if he actually did some cool actiony shit, you know?
He did do a little cool actiony shit. Not as much as you might have wanted, but
Yeah.
he literally
It's-
killed a crocodile with a knife.
It's a lot more though in the second one from
Yeah.
what I remember.
yeah, that was the
'Cause
high
there's-
point of the movie in this one.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
liked when he hit the burglar on the back of the head with a can.
I laughed at that.
Okay, so
That's funny.
That's another example. There's stuff in this movie that it's a different type of doesn't make sense. It's like they put him in these weird situations just to see him do the cool thing. But then if he wasn't there to do the cool thing, these situations just do not add up at all.
Like, why are they all standing outside a barber shop watching people get their hair cut?
Okay.
Wait, when did that happen?
Why are the dogs running wild on the property
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
when there are guests arriving?
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the interesting thing is I was watching this movie, and at that point there's 15 minutes left to the film, and they set up these dogs, right? And I'm like, oh, I remember the end of this movie. And then the movie ends, and I was like, wait, this is not the end I remember. The end I'm remembering is the end, you know, this is
From
the second
E.T..
time. The second time I've misremembered the end. But the end I'm remembering is the one from the third movie where I don't fucking remember how or why. And I remember thinking, there's only 15 minutes left in this movie. How do they set this up? But the end of the third movie, it's clear that they like took the dog thing and that's where they extrapolated it and made it into the end of the third movie. But these people like jump her father's property fence and like have guns and AK-47s and shit. And they're like, I don't remember why, but they're trying to, it's some sort of compound. But there's dogs. There's guard dogs.
And
that
then,
he,
they,
like,
and then they
sicks on the
chase Tony
people.
Montana up the stairs, and they shoot at him, and he goes, let me introduce you to my old friend. And
No, I'm serious. This is the end of one of these movies.
really Crocodile
I'm not
Dundee.
lying.
Yeah.
You guys are dicks.
Sorry. So, of course, we had Reginald Vell Johnson from Family Matters, or I Shot a Kid in Die Hard.
Oh, that's him? Wow.
But another one of those scenarios that doesn't make any sense, like he takes the antenna off of the back of the limo and throws it perfectly like a boomerang. Like
that was awesome.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
I would have bought if one of the people from Australia had done that.
Yeah.
But it's like they took a scene written for Crocodile Dundee and gave it to the limo driver.
They went way out of their way to be able to make the joke that they wanted to make.
It was getting kind of racist.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I buy the racism of it, because racism is about hate, and Crocodile Dundee is like, you know, you're a black fella because I hang out with black fellas and they're my friends, and it's just a weird way of saying that, you know.
But to
But none
say
of it
that
comes
all
from
black
hate.
people are bush or, you know, Aborigines is not that's
It's
I think
it's
it's
a-
more
racist.
insulting to the intelligence of your average Australian. Like, I can't imagine there's any Australian dumb enough to think that every person of color in the world is an Aborigine.
It's not like oppressive racism. It's casual racism.
Yeah.
It's accidental.
yes.
Like
Yes.
It's the making assumptions based on other people's races that kind of has roots in thinking you're better than them.
Like there's no way that two black people on different halves of the planet, you know, might actually be different from one another. You're
Yeah.
not in a tribe? Like
But Crocodile
I
Dundee
mean-
definitely does not think he's better than them.
No, I would
no.
Certainly
disagree.
thinks he's peer.
But he made that statement to the guy where he said, "Oh, you know, the guys back home where I live don't have a car like this. You must be doing pretty well for yourself." You know, like that kind of came off a little like he's
Yeah.
better than them. A little bit.
Like you're actually.
I don't know. I
one
think
with
he
money.
would say that about himself too. Like, he doesn't have a car that nice.
I guess so. But he seemed surprised. He was surprised that a black man would have such a nice car.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
may not. I mean, his character may not be racist, but the person who wrote that line, that was a little insensitive.
So I guess there's a version of this movie that existed in my mind that was not this movie. But
Yeah,
there's a version
me
of
too.
it. You know, this guy who is completely at peace in nature and has something to share about nature and has a friendship and a respect for the native people there.
I mean,
And then
I
he
think
goes
you're
to New York and it's all goofy and funny because he's completely uncomfortable. There's a different way of writing this story much better.
Yeah.
did you see Jungle
Yeah.
to Jungle?
Oh
Oh
God.
my God,
that,
yes.
That can't be it.
Because I think that's it.
That is it. You're right.
And, you know, they keep making comments about Tarzan in this movie. And, you know, Tarzan is a great story, you know, that definitely has some similarity to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there were a lot of missed opportunities, and I'm not sure if it was just because of the budget, like budget wise, they didn't have the budget to go big with the idea of this guy in New York, but it definitely, like, even, you know, Sam, you brought up Elf. I feel like even Elf is a better version of
Totally.
that, you know, where they really raised the bar on the gags. Like, it was just gag
Yeah.
after gag after gag of this guy not in his element. And I didn't find any of the gags particularly funny.
No.
There were like
know?
3 or 4 that were really memorable,
Yeah.
but nothing
But-
in between that was particularly entertaining.
Yeah, and
And even the really memorable ones are not that funny.
Yeah, they had that comment at the end. She calls to like talk to him, and she's like, "Oh, he's checking out. We're really gonna miss him around here." And I'm like, "Really? Why?" Because I've seen him interact with like 0 people there.
Yeah.
You know, like where was that scene? You know,
There's this implied charm. You know, Luna was saying it doesn't make any sense. He's going to go walk about. How does he know where the subway is? How does he get into the subway? Does he have tickets or tokens or anything? And I was thinking, well, I could see a scene where he goes down into the subway, he sees a sign, and he like does his Crocodile Dundee charm, and somebody gives him some tokens.
Yeah.
And that would make sense, but it wasn't in the movie. Just like what you're saying, like there's no reason for these people at the hotel to love him because that wasn't in the movie.
yeah.
Totally.
Like there could have been this like awesome scene of him hunting in Central Park or something, you know, and like killing a pigeon and like eating it, or you know, there was so much potential and nothing really happened in it. It also like fell at such a strange place in the film. Like this film is literally 2 halves where, you know, the first half is Australia. Yeah, you were very right there. And the second half is New York. But like, I didn't find any like, what's the motivation of him to go to New York? Like there didn't really seem to be a reason.
She just said, I'd like you to go to New York. And I thought, well, that's how they're going to keep the movie going.
To get this woman to be a fucking adulterer. That was his motivation.
I get his motivation. I don't understand her motivation in like bringing him back.
Well, here it is, like from the clues I've pieced together. And again, this isn't explained in the movie. She really liked this guy. She didn't want to leave him. So she found a way to make daddy pay for a trip for him to go to New York.
But like you said, it like just doesn't really make sense. Like what would have made more sense is, and would have been stronger is if she got engaged in the beginning of the film, and then she goes to Australia, meets this guy, realizes she doesn't actually like this dude that she's engaged to, and she decides to stay in Australia with this other dude, you know, and then she's making this strong choice, as opposed to like, what's the point of bringing this dude back and parading him around in front of your boyfriend? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
That's where the comedy was supposed to be.
She wanted a side-by-side comparison so she could actually make an informed decision.
Yeah, definitely.
That part felt very King Kong. Like, I could almost see him strapped to the boat and dragged to New York to, like, put on a show, and then he escapes and does crazy things. Like, it's very King Kong.
It didn't make any sense. Like, how do you explain this? I mean, I guess they explain that away by making it her dad, but like, what reason would you give the newspaper to bring him back? Like, I don't understand how this makes any sense for her story that she's writing.
Because she's like,
is the story that engaging?
Yeah. And like, other than the prostitute reading the story, there's really no impact of the newspaper article, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
it's not important.
Yeah.
A very expensive series of articles.
Well, this was pre-Wikipedia, so, you know.
But I believe in Superman that, you know, the Daily Planet wants to write these stories about Superman because that sells papers. Like, in this movie, I'm not buying that these stories sell that many papers.
Yeah. No. Like, who really cares?
That's a lot less Daily Planet and more News of the World.
I guess.
Like, it's just is a tabloid article, like a single like paragraph about a guy who got his leg bit by an alligator is all
right.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted there to be no leg. He could still walk.
Again, that's the part that I did like, is that there's these stories and he promotes those stories, but they're not quite true.
Okay.
But then there's that other layer of like, you know what? Those stories are not quite true, but when he's up against it in the wilderness, he is the real deal.
Yeah.
I really like those layers to the story, and I wish it had worked in a better movie.
Yeah.
I feel like they kind of set up to, in that first scene, when she's in the bar in Australia and Wally's like telling her the story, and like the bartender's like, oh, that story gets funnier every time you tell it. Like, they sort of set up this vibe that in this town in Australia, like, people tell these tales that get exaggerated each time and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and like, they're okay with that. Like, that's just their form of entertainment, you know? Yeah. But I wished, like it would have made more sense, like if maybe through them going through the bush, like they discover an illegal poaching ring, and that's, he takes them down.
Some conflict?
And some conflict to this movie would be.
That would have
nice.
been a great cover for shooting at people.
Yeah. Well, that might be the plot of the second movie. I wonder. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I'm having memories of the second movie too, because I expected this movie to end with her going back to Australia with him.
Yes.
That
and
must
that's what
have
I
been the
remember
second
too.
movie.
Yeah. So I guess the second movie is the better one.
Maybe it's like you have to watch them back to back.
Oh God.
Ugh, I don't know if
No,
I could.
please
Yeah,
don't make us.
Oh God.
Yeah, before we watched this, I was looking them up on IMDb and I thought, we're going to watch this. I'm going to want to watch the other two right after it.
Nope.
And now I kind of don't. I'm
Yeah.
not that interested. I still
right,
want to
so
see the
Crocodile.
Chris Hemsworth, Danny McBride movie.
I do want to see that too. So this is the shortest description I've ever seen, but the plot to the second movie is Australian outback expert protects his New York love from gangsters who follow her down under. So, and that's
So
what
we're romancing
happens-
the stone.
Oh, she's writing
I
a
guess.
story that upsets some people. And to
Maybe.
put her into hiding, he takes her back to the outback. I think that's what happens.
Oh.
I mean, that sounds better.
But then
So I
they figure
wonder
it
if
out and they
that's
go
the
down
movie-
there. Down
That
there.
must be the movie that had the scene with the people with the AK-47s jumping
Yeah.
over her dad's wall, because that makes sense now.
And then it's their fight. He's fighting these drug lords on his turf.
Yeah.
That's the second movie. Now I kind of
See, that's the movie I wanted. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one that I
That
remember
might be
being
a good movie.
It's probably ladled
I'm
with
conflicted.
horrible sexism and
Yeah.
grabbing people by the pussy. God, I still can't believe that happened in this
Twice. So
And
bad.
you know what? Like knowing the context of like today, seeing that first scene, like that trans person looked real sad.
Also, the whole bar laughed at them. How horrible. Like, not a single person was like, dude, that's not okay.
movie. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
here's the really tough point for me to make. It's really horrifying when we see people like, I don't know, the President of the United States thinking stuff like that's okay. But when you see movies like this from 30 years ago and you get this picture of all of society was cool with that. In fact, this was a popular movie and a lot of people like that gag. You can start to see the context of why older people today would think that stuff is all right.
Yeah.
Because they're
do
complicit.
The
understand
argument
what you're
is,
saying.
oh, it was another time. I can see the context for the argument, it was another time.
I mean,
Right.
Man, it still sucks.
He's not
But-
saying it's right. He's just saying he understands.
Those fucking millennials and their newfangled ideas.
us
about-
goddamn snowflakes, man. We just don't
And they're-
want to hurt other people's feelings. How dare we?
Snowflakes with respect for other people.
Yeah, God.
Yeah. That is,
yeah,
this is not the conversation I wanted to have when watching Crocodile Dundee.
Can I ask you a question? Was that Carol Kane as one of the prostitutes? Because
I don't
boy,
think
did it
so.
look like her. Oh, okay. And it's not. I watched the end of the credits, and they didn't credit any of the like extra people. So I don't know who it was.
I don't know, I think her voice is pretty unmistakable.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really sound like her, but I thought maybe it was her putting on a accent. You know.
Dude,
Which
Nick.
once again makes me think we need to watch Scrooged.
Oh, I've never
She's so
seen
good
it.
in that.
I have a question for you, Nick, as somebody who grew up more in the 80s than us.
Oh God, because I'm
We're-
the old one.
Were people just that okay with cocaine?
Oh yeah, it was the 80s.
I asked Bret, and he was like, yeah,
Sorry.
it was like the weed of that decade. And I was like, what? Nah. Like,
No,
he just,
I mean, I was a child in the 80s, so I didn't see people doing cocaine, but the context that I get from movies at the time is that it was pretty normal. Like, remember in Die Hard,
crazy.
there was a guy who was doing cocaine at the office Christmas party.
yeah.
You know, I think it's just a thing that was in a lot of 80s movies, which suggested anybody with money was doing it in the 80s.
It was the popular drug of the time. It was the drug in vogue. I guess you could say.
I just had another thought about your different time and place comment. His little speech at the beginning, where they're trying to romanticize his apathy about literally everything.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, "What do you think about the nuclear standoff?" And he's like,
Oh,
I don't have an opinion.
And it's like, what do you think about the Aboriginals? Like, oh, can they? Who owns the land? He's like, you can't own the land, man. And it's just like, yeah, you fucking can, dude. And
I mean, I don't know. I kind of buy like he's so far removed from like human to human conflict because you just deal with nature. Like his conflict is surviving. It has nothing to do with politics and like
yeah, but the rest of the movie paints that conversation less in the I'm a nature man and more in the I literally don't care about any other human being. Yeah. And like they tried to romanticize it. I don't know. It feels like, and she was like super digging it. And was that the vibe of the time? Like people were envying the lack of compassion of other humans. Like, ugh.
I don't know. I didn't really get that from that he has a lack of compassion. I just got it, you know.
He keeps to himself.
He's not.
I'm not going to bother with other people's affairs.
Yeah, he's not trying to be up in other people's business that doesn't involve him. Was basically the vibe I got from that.
Which is charming, and I was like, at that point in the movie, I was like, this is a charming character. I like this character. I can't wait for the movie to actually kick into gear and to have fun with this character.
And then
now that part never happened.
Yeah.
And then he did some really creepy stuff when he got to America.
I was going to say, like, this movie was generally pretty boring.
yeah.
Like,
And so here's what I realized. And I was mentioning Taika Waititi a moment ago. The good version of this movie that you want to see is Hunt for the Wilder People.
yes, I was going to say that as well.
Right?
Absolutely. I love that movie.
That's the character that we want. The character that we deserve.
Yes.
I haven't seen it either.
Oh my God.
And it's not
Best movie of
Australia, it's New
2016.
Zealand, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, all the New Zealand people are pretty mad at you right now. All the New Zealand, Australia people are like, not the same.
No,
Zealand is
I'm not
basically
making
just a
that
suburb
claim,
of
but I'm
Australia.
saying the type of a character living off of the wilderness.
Right. I'm just
Yeah.
joking. Like the crocodile alligator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie is great. That is definitely more towards what I was hoping here. And even, you know, even just like a Romancing the Stone-esque version in Australia was what I was hoping for, you know, just more.
Yeah.
And you
I
thought
wanna
it would
see
be
him-
way better.
I did.
It's just not what anybody wanted.
I am totally going on record saying I have never been so wrong about a movie. So embarrassing.
I didn't
it
want you
leaves
to be
me
this
in-
wrong.
I
man.
know none of us
I know.
saw it.
And because I was telling dear listener, as the conversation we had before was we debated whether or not we should do this movie because like I had posted a couple things, seeing if I could get some interest, seeing if people remember liking this movie, and nobody really interacted that much. And now I know why nobody has been watching this movie since 1980 over and over again.
Does this not paint that commercial in a different light now? Like they watched
little bit.
Crocodile Dundee and were like, this needs a reboot.
Danny McBride is perfect.
Yeah. Right?
I just feel like people are saying, you know, it was great for our tourism bureau back in the 80s was that Crocodile
Sexism.
Dundee character.
Yeah.
Too bad we can't have that again. And somebody said, well,
Yeah.
maybe.
Actually, you can. Yeah, I have these memories that I'm hoping are just from the second movie and that it is way better, but like God, now I just don't know. I question everything now.
I still wonder.
You know what
about
I
Mighty
questioned?
Ducks 2.
Yeah, exactly.
this-
Like it feels like that scenario again for sure.
Yeah. But this leaves me questioning the quality of late 1970s Australian sketch comedy.
Oh God. Yeah, if that's what
this
they
is
thought
the movie
was funny,
that was birthed from that,
It could be good.
jeez.
like I really
like,
want to see the
no-
Paul Hogan show just to see is it this slow and boring?
Right? And the gags just, they're just not that funny.
Yeah.
This could have been, the gags could have held up, but they just weren't, even him like crawling on top of the sign and then riding back on the police horse just isn't that, where's the gag,
It's
I thought that part
mildly
was
charming.
kinda
It's
funny.
not hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the very popular like that's a knife. Like that kind of sucked. Like nothing was good in this.
I don't know. I think that might be funny if we'd not had it ruined for us for the past 30 years.
Oh, I thought you were going to say by me.
No. I mean, we've heard that gag over and over and over and over for 30 years. To see that fresh, that might have been funny.
I mean, I
But it's
remember
hard to
that
gauge.
part being funny, but it's, like the bidet thing wasn't particularly funny.
Mm-mm.
So the bidet, here's what's interesting about the bidet thing. I'm here in Italy, and that's the standard. Across Italy, there's always a bidet.
Okay.
And so Luna and I are watching this scene, laughing for completely different reasons. And I had to tell her that literally was my entire experience with the bidet before coming to Italy.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask you, you bring up Italy, like, how was that dude's Italian? Because it didn't sound great.
Oh,
But
the New Yorker guy trying to order?
Yeah.
It was, he seemed to be at my level of Italian, but thinking
Okay.
he's
Yes.
really, really brilliant. Like, oh, I'm going to order for everybody and I'm going to say one sentence.
Yeah, exactly. I was
It
like,
was
you
kinda
ordered
funny.
one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, was that
Yeah.
a common thing
He
in the
was showing
80s?
off.
Because that is
So,
so
order for people?
rude. Yeah, I'm going to order for the table. Like, what the fuck? No, I want to pick my goddamn food. No,
Yeah.
I think
that's
it's a common thing among assholes.
I guess.
Yeah, that was
Which
all
he
about
was.
that
Really
guy
drunk,
being an
though.
ass.
I have been really drunk, and I never forced you guys to eat something that I picked. Like,
Well, no,
You
when you
have
get
been-
drunk, you eat everyone else's stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
fine.
and you drink our drinks, and then you tell us you hate us and love us at the same time.
Yeah.
So I was watching that dinner scene, and like, I said out loud, I was like, "Is this the scene where he's been normal the whole movie, but now he's an asshole, so that it's okay for her to cheat on him?" But then,
Totally.
like, knowing that she already kissed fucking Dundee, and
she's
like,
she's the worst.
like all of this dude's asshole actions in that scene were totally fucking justified. Like he was just
'Cause
being
he can
mean
tell.
to this dude who
Yeah.
was hitting on his girlfriend.
Yeah, he can totally tell. I mean, he's still a dick, but like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
still.
get what you're saying. Like, I
Yeah, he was-
understand why he's being a dick.
He was reacting to dickery by being a dick. Mm-hmm. You know who's the worst in this movie? All of the characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're bad people. They've all been like just rude to each other.
Also, like what was with the scene? Like, they're all the worst, and then she's like, the scene with the water buffalo, she's all impressed that he made the water buffalo lay down, and I just couldn't help but think,
Yeah.
it's still in your way.
That's what I said
Yes.
to Brett. I'm
I
like,
was
this is
expecting that to be
worse.
the payoff of the joke.
Yeah, I was
Like,
like,
he's-
what?
You've
This is
accomplished
potentially
nothing.
worse. This
Yeah.
is worse.
It did not make any sense. And then they just cut away to a different
Yeah.
scene. Like, how did that resolve? I want to know.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
It's
Oh.
it's a little funny in like a existentially bizarre way. Like
Yeah. Oh, to jump all the way back to the beginning of the movie. So she's in the hotel in Sydney on the phone with the guy in New York at the office. What time is that?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, have you
Like
not seen
when it's
Newsroom?
morning in Sydney and morning in New York. What time is that?
Oh,
Right?
you're right.
Sorry, there's just yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. That was great. Did you guys catch? There's a moment where the pimp clearly says the word fuck.
Yeah.
And they dubbed over screw,
yeah,
like really badly.
I totally did not notice that. There was a lot of bad ADR in this.
They just really didn't want to get that rating.
I guess. That's all I can
But
assume.
the pussy grabbing is totally fine.
It was done
Yeah.
off screen.
That's true. But don't say the
Are
word
you?
fuck.
I'm worried for you, Brett. That people are going to listen to this episode and assume that you're like okay with animal cruelty and grabbing them by the pussy.
Let's
as
be
long
clear.
As it's off
Hunting
screen.
is fine. I'm not
they weren't
saying
hunting.
like those guys that were driving around in their trucks weren't like grabbing kangaroos and fucking like tying them up and doing weird ass like tortured rituals to them. They were just shooting kangaroos. That's cool.
No, it's not.
That's a thing.
I
People
don't
do that
think
here in the
that's
U.S.
cool.
Only people
But
who
how-
lack empathy would think
I don't mean
that's
like
fun.
it's cool like the fawns, but like it's an okay thing to do for a great number of people. People like hunting.
Yeah, but that's not hunting. They were just killing.
That's literally what hunting is, man.
No, you take what you kill and then you go and eat
This ain't
it.
fucking Riddick. You don't keep what you kill. Like you could leave it out there.
No, you can't. Then that's not hunting. It's just animal murder.
I don't have anything else to say about this movie.
Are you calling it?
I'm really.
Yeah.
I'm
think
so
we're done
done.
Yeah.
I think it is interesting that the one and only thing that I thought everybody would be talking about is the one and only thing that everybody's talking about.
Because it's shocking. and
Really,
awful.
really creepy. You know,
God. That
Yeah.
poor trans man that just was like, he thought he was doing good.
Trans woman.
Trans woman. Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Sure, yeah. And
Right,
gets laughed out of a bar.
It's
like,
horrible.
God.
Because she was
Well-
passing up until that point.
to be clear,
Well-
that person is not completely guilt-free because the trans woman was inviting a man back to her place without making it clear what the situation was.
Well, what? You're going to do
And
it in the
that's not
bar?
cool.
Like,
I'm sorry, but from the moment that scene started, I knew that was a man. And I don't
Okay.
think, I feel like most people would. And so I don't feel like it's that person's fault.
yeah. And like from her perspective, her whole life, everyone's thought she's horrible and doesn't give her a chance. And then suddenly there's somebody who's different. Like, oh, and they're okay with it.
I
Like,
think you need to have
everyone-
that conversation.
Well, maybe
when
they
are
go
you
back
gonna
to their
have it?
apartment
Yeah.
and then they have
Okay.
that
Okay,
conversation.
fair enough.
And then it's
Yeah.
like,
Like you're
In a
not going to
private.
have it in
Fair
the
enough.
bar
Yeah.
where I don't go to bars and talk about my genitalia. Like, no. Yeah. Like,
I guess
that's
one of
not
the
okay.
the important markers of like one of the trans fights of today is like passing shouldn't be a prerequisite to romance. Like,
Yeah, totally.
If that conversation has to be had, it should be had probably like just it doesn't have to be had right up front all the time. Like you should be able to have a normal social interaction before actually talking about sex and stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway,
Lawyered.
Still the most innocent person in this film.
Absolutely.
Except maybe Reginald Vell Johnson, the magic limo driver who knew that Crocodile Dundee was being attacked in a back alley.
Yes.
that was
Worked
rad.
his way through Times Square traffic to get to that back alley just in time.
yeah.
Although
Despite all the racism, he still helps
Yeah.
the dude out.
he did drink and drive an awful lot, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Well, it's
bottle
not
of
the
whiskey
80s.
was 3/4 empty.
Yeah. All right. I think we've had enough Crocodile Dundee for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Unless they make this new movie, then I'll go.
So start the wrap ups then.
Yes. All right, Sam, you're the one currently on my screen.
Yeah. So, totally not better than Romancing the Stone. And
No.
I think it fell into
Agreed.
that trap of if we don't remember it, it's probably because it sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So damn
Yeah.
it, we were foiled again.
We were just having a conversation literally last night about how the Academy has not proven that they actually have the I don't want to say authority, but like the judging chops to show what movies actually are the best movies. That this movie was nominated for anything is just like
Yeah.
like somebody would
Yeah.
suggest that it's in the category of almost anything else that's won an Oscar is
Yeah. So
I don't
so
know.
yeah, that's
I
want
want to know what it was up against.
Me too. So this guy was nominated for his acting, but then when Marissa Tomei was nominated and won, everyone was like, "Oh, it was a mistake." Like,
What?
no.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that was like a common thing. They're like, "Oh, they read the wrong name. It wasn't supposed to be her." And she was brilliant in My Cousin Vinny. And this guy, it wasn't bad, but
Well, to be clear, he won a Golden Globe for acting, but he was nominated for the writing Academy Award.
for the writing.
Which I
That's
feel like
almost
is even worse.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, I know you guys don't watch Mr. Robot. Nick does, but there's a line from Mr. Robot. Gosh, I don't know how far you are, Nick. I don't know if you'd be upset that I say this. It's not like a spoiler for the show, but there's a line in Mr. Robot where the main character dude says, somebody says like, "Oh, this movie doesn't have a good review online or whatever." And he's like, "Well, that's because critics have shitty tastes." And like, I was like, yes, that is so accurate. Because if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, so often the critic and audience, ratings can be wildly different,
Also, have you ever read any of those critiques of the movie? They don't say
some of
anything
them.
constructive. They just summarize the movie. And it's like, what the fuck? That's not a review.
Also, I want to go back to something I said in the first half of the thing that's not really about any of the racist nonsense we've been talking about.
You want to talk about kangaroos more?
When I was a kid, and like I can totally see how it worked watching the movie because there was only one instance where it was unambiguously the other way. But when I was a kid, I thought his name was Mick J, Crocodile Dundee, profession. I thought the Crocodile Dundee was his job.
Oh, okay.
So you're like, there's Crocodile Dundees, there's Giraffe Dundees.
I literally thought it was like Canadian Mountie, Crocodile Dundee. Like he's the Outback Cop or some shit. Like
Outback Cop is the movie that we need.
Yes.
Mick
we have
Bryden.
RoboCop. We have Mall Cop.
I'm going to give you the 59th Academy Awards nominees for Best Screenplay.
Oh, no.
Crocodile Dundee by Paul Hogan. Salvador by Oliver Stone. My Beautiful Laundrette.
Foreign?
And, Platoon, also by Oliver Stone.
Oh.
Wow,
But the winner was Hannah and Her Sisters, Woody Allen.
Another creepy, sexist person. Rapey.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of surprised Platoon didn't win out. Everything else is kind of lame competition.
Must have been a bad year. 86.
people really liked Woody Allen.
Yeah,
So
they did really like Woody Allen.
So is Crocodile Dundee on par with Platoon from writing?
No.
Oh, no. I haven't
Okay.
seen Platoon, so.
Is Crocodile Dundee on par with Woody Allen's writing?
Yes.
I have a hard time. I learned the facts about Woody Allen before I watched any of his movies, and they just really color his stuff.
Yeah.
It makes it hard for me.
I'm going to be honest. I find his movies fucking boring. I've tried to watch them even before I saw, knew about his creepiness. I still found them boring.
But like knowing about it turns every single movie into like Louis C.K.'s movie. Like you just can't.
Even Louis C.K. isn't as bad as like gaslighting and fucking your stepdaughter. Like,
Agreed.
it's horrible. I would much rather be trapped in a room with a masturbating man than gaslit by my stepfather. Like
Who admitted and apologized for it later, Not that wipes everything clean, but,
And
people like Woody Allen and Weinstein still say they've done nothing wrong.
And honestly, we're not even that up in arms about Woody. We're like,
Well,
We're like, no, I mean,
depends on how you
I
define
am.
we.
His name is Woody. What'd you think?
The media, anyway.
Nobody named Woody could do
The
anything
liberal
bad, see?
snowflakes.
Yeah. God,
All right,
those
Ash,
snowflakes.
give us your final thoughts here.
Ugh.
I would rather be an Australian comic in a kangaroo flesh pocket than watch this movie again. It was so boring.
Yeah.
So boring and disappointing.
The worst
and
sin.
like I seriously can't get over the fact that it's honestly the most offensive old movie that I've seen in quite a long time. I'm just like really
Well done, Crocodile.
I'm just so shocked by the fact that Grab Them by the Pussy was like literally in this film twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah.
I feel ashamed that I posted on the internet that I liked this movie. That's how I feel about this movie.
That's okay. You
I
said
award
you
you no
remembered.
points, and God may God have mercy on your soul.
No, I'll give you a pass. You said you remembered liking this movie, not that you currently like it, and it is the whole thesis of a big part of your internet presence. So,
And that's the whole point of this show.
Yes.
And
yeah.
and so we've conducted the scientific experiment on this movie and found
Our
that
hypothesis
it is
very
not
wrong.
as good as we remembered it.
We've been found wanting.
Yes.
yes.
I think it's interesting, Nick, at the beginning you commented on how it's a well-balanced film, and I agreed with you. I'm not saying I didn't, but man, is it not
Well,
well-balanced.
the balance meaning like it's a balance between drama, comedy, and like these
Racism.
tender
And sexism.
human moments in nature.
But
and
not
it, like-
really.
Well, it felt like they were going for that.
Yeah, but
You know?
it didn't quite.
You know what is
Work
a
out.
really, truly well balanced movie? The
Princess
Princess Bride.
Very true. It's a
job.
fantastic film.
That's why they couldn't market it, but it's genius. And this is no Princess Bride.
Is Carol Kane like another Christopher Walken, where if she's in your movie, it's good?
Wait, Carol?
I'll accept that.
Who? Wait. Was she one of the cranky old people? In
Yes.
She was Billy Crystal's wife and
Why did
Princess
I think
Bride.
that was Carol King?
Well, that's
don't
a
know.
singer.
I know. I was very
feel the
confused my
earth
whole life.
Move under my feet. And she was also in Scrooge, the Ghost of Christmas Future.
And she's in Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh yes,
Oh,
She's
that's
great in
right.
Kimmy Schmidt.
yes. I don't have anything to add as far as final thoughts. I think we've said it.
That's it.
Not so good.
What about you, Brett?
He already went, man.
Oh, did he?
Brett went.
Well, I'm
I think we just need
now.
to get out of the bush here.
Yeah. Oh. Seriously, Crocodile Dundee, get out of that bush.
Wow.
Get out of her bush.
Wow. Wow.
Unless
wow.
you have explicit permission.
Wow.
Yes.
Can
No
we end
does
the
not
show?
mean yes.
Yeah, and if you liked those jokes, there's more of them on our network, Last Dash TV. It's this podcast and a YouTube channel with a drinking show and a cooking show and video game parodies and other fun things on occasion.
Yeah, so there's a drinking show with Brett and me. You can watch that. We just released an episode not too long ago with spicy beers where we mistakenly eat peppers because we think that's a good idea and cry.
Mistakenly?
I hurt myself.
I'm pretty sure that was the moment where we both fucked up our stomachs for life. And you can also follow us on Twitter. We are at Laughstash TV, or you can follow this podcast specifically at Let's Rewatch. And we do fun stuff, like sometimes we do a poll and let you guys choose what movie we're going to see. Today, since I unfortunately chose this movie, I tweeted a screenshot and then asked everyone to guess which movie it was. And of course, Mitch knew which movie. And so did Christopher Tyler. And somebody named Doug Perry asked, are those his hands or hers? Because if you look at the still that I tweeted, it looks like Wally is like restraining the female lead. And it's pretty hilarious. So check that out. Also, join our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where you can talk more in depth with us and other fan peoples. And that's just Let's Rewatch Podcast, I think is what it's called. And it's a closed group. Shut up. It's a closed group. So just
some good
request
conversation in
to
there.
join. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Mitch.
always asks great questions. Thanks
Yeah.
for doing our job for us, Mitch.
Which
Keeping
has
it
like
going.
5 call outs on this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been rocking it.
Yeah. So check it out. And if you'd like to join, just request to join.
Yeah, and if you liked our show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or Google Play Music. We love your feedback.
And make sure your podcast feed is up to date and let your friends know. We'll be back again in another 2 weeks for another episode of Let's Rewatch.
Yeah, next time we're going to watch Zombie Ass Toilet of the Dead.
It's a toilet, though, not a bidet.
Well, you use the zombie ass bidet of the dead after you use the zombie ass toilet of the dead.